The Presbyterian Church called a meeting to decide what to do about their squirrel infestation. After much prayer and consideration, they concluded that the squirrels were predestined to be there, and they should not interfere with God's divine will. At the Baptist church, the squirrels had taken an interest in the baptistry. The deacons met and decided to put a water slide on the baptistry and let the squirrels drown themselves. The squirrels liked the slide and, unfortunately, knew instinctively how to swim, so twice as many squirrels showed up the following week. The Lutheran Church decided that they were not in a position to harm any of God's creatures, so they humanely trapped their squirrels and set them free near the Baptist church. 2 weeks later, the squirrels were back when the Baptists took down the water slide. The Episcopalians tried a much more unique path by setting out pans of whiskey around their church in an effort to kill the squirrels with alcohol poisoning. They sadly learned how much damage a band of drunk squirrels can do. But the Catholic Church came up with a more creative strategy. They baptized all the squirrels and made them members of the church. Now they only see them at Christmas and Easter. Not much was heard from the Jewish synagogue. They took the first squirrel and circumcised him. They haven't seen a squirrel since. 2 men are in a lunatic asylum, and one night, they decide they don't like living in an asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. They get up onto the roof, and there, just across this narrow gap, they see the rooftops of the town, stretching away in the moonlight to freedom. The first man jumps right across with no problem, but his friend didn't dare make the leap, afraid of falling. So then, the first man has an idea. He says, "Hey, I have my flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings. You can walk along the beam and join me." The second man immediately spots the problem with this and shakes his head. "What do you think I am, crazy? You'd turn it off when I was halfway across." A woman named Jill stood up at her church's testimony meeting one Sunday morning, took the microphone from one of the church ushers, and bared her soul to the enraptured congregation. "I want to tell you about the awful accident that my husband Jim has suffered this past month. He was riding his Harley, lost control, ran off the highway, and hit a tree. He was rushed to the hospital and could have died, but thank the Lord, all he suffered was a broken scrotum." The congregation gasped in horror. The men in the congregation were obviously uneasy and writhed in their seats. "Jim has been in terrible pain all month since the accident. He has trouble breathing. He has trouble swallowing his food. He can hardly lift anything. He's in so much pain, and he has missed work because of it. He can't lift our children up to hold them and give them the personal love that they need. Worst of all, we can no longer cuddle and have intimate relations. He is in constant pain, a pain so terrible that our love life has all but slipped away into oblivion. I would like to ask you all in the congregation to pray for Jim and pray for us that his broken scrotum will soon heal and be as good as new." A dull murmur erupted within the congregation as the full impact of this terrible accident sank in, and the men in the congregation were visibly shaken up with the thought that, "There but for the grace of God go I." Then, as the murmuring settled down, a lone figure stood up in midst of the congregation, worked his way up to the pulpit, obviously in pain, adjusted the microphone to his liking, then leaned over and said to the congregation, "My name is Jim, and I have only one word for my wife, Jill. That word is sternum." Mildred, the local gossip and self-appointed keeper of the church's morals, kept poking her nose into other people's business. Several members of the church did not approve of her extracurricular activities, but kept to themselves in fear of reprisal. She made a mistake, however, when she accused a new member, Sam, of being an alcoholic after seeing his old pickup parked outside the town's only pub one afternoon. She emphatically told Sam and several others of the congregation that by seeing his car there, everyone would know exactly what he was doing. Sam, a man of few words, stared at her for a moment, then just turned and walked away. He didn't explain, defend, or deny. He said nothing. Later that evening, Sam quietly parked his pickup in front of Mildred's house and left it there all night. A man meets a beautiful, sexy girl. He really desires her, so he invites her to a movie, and she tells him, "Listen, if you're looking to sleep with me, then there is no need to get me dinners, movie evenings, and all that. Just buy me a good Swiss Army knife," the guy thinks. It's true. He's not interested in something long-term, so he buys her a good, genuine Victorinox. They come to her home. She opens a big chest standing in a closet and puts his knife there. The guy sees that the chest is half filled with such knives already. Then she takes him to her bedroom for a wonderful night together. The next morning, they're sitting at her kitchen drinking tea, and he asks her, "Can I ask you a question? What would you need so many knives for?" "You see," she explains, "I'm young now. I'm beautiful. I have no trouble finding guys. In fact, they're the ones chasing me. But I know it doesn't last forever. One day, I'll be older, gray-haired. I'll be the one looking everywhere for a piece of love. And then, do you have any idea what a young man would be willing to do for a good Swiss Army knife?" A woman goes to the doctor, worried about her husband's temper. The doctor asks, "What's the problem?" The woman says, "Doctor, I don't know what to do. Every day my husband seems to lose his temper for no reason. It scares me." The doctor says, "I have a cure for that. When it seems that your husband is getting angry, just take a glass of water and start swishing it in your mouth. Just swish and swish, but don't swallow it until he either leaves the room or calms down." 2 weeks later, the woman comes back to the doctor looking fresh and reborn. The woman says, "Doctor, that was a brilliant idea. Every time my husband started losing it, I swished with water. I swished, and he calmed right down. How does a glass of water do that?" The doctor says, "The water itself does nothing. It's keeping your mouth shut that does the trick." A 75-year-old woman had one hobby. She loved to fish. She was sitting in her boat the other day when she heard a voice say, "Pick me up." She looked around and couldn't see anyone. She thought she was dreaming when she heard the voice say again, "Pick me up!" She looked in the water, and there, floating on the top, was a frog. The woman said, "Are you talking to me?" The frog said, "Yes, I'm talking to you. Pick me up, then kiss me, and I'll turn into the most beautiful man you have ever seen. I'll make sure that all your friends are envious and jealous, because I will be your groom." The woman looked at the frog for a short time, reached over, picked it up carefully, and placed it in her shirt pocket. The frog said, "What, are you nuts? Didn't you hear what I said? I said, 'Kiss me, and I will be your beautiful husband.'" She opened her pocket, looked at the frog, and said, "Nah, at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog."